Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling a problem that I think actually keeps more people awake at night than the technical challenges of their job.
Oh, yeah.
It's that communication challenge, that specific painful moment where you, as a data professional, have to explain why the company needs to spend money on something that sounds, frankly, incredibly boring.
You're talking about the eyes glazing over
The
phenomenon?
glaze is so real. You start saying data governance or metadata or lineage, and you could literally just see their souls leaving their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a source today that claims to fix this. We're looking at the Data Governance Analogy Toolkit. And the promise here is, well, it's pretty bold.
It is.
It says, stop explaining the technical stuff and start sensitizing the business using stories they can actually understand.
Sensitizing is the key word there, isn't it? It implies the business side is currently, numb. They don't feel the pain of bad data governance until it's a complete catastrophe.
Right.
So the goal of this toolkit isn't to teach them SQL. It's to make them feel the visceral frustration of not having governance, but in a context they get.
And to do that, we're going deep on one specific concept from the toolkit today. They call it Concept M, but I think everyone listening will know it as the nightmare of moving house.
It's the perfect analogy. It is universally traumatic. I don't think there's a single person who actually enjoys packing their life into cardboard boxes.
If they do, I don't trust them. But let's look at why this works. Usually when we talk governance, we talk about risk, which is so abstract. This toolkit says, forget that. Paint a picture.
Exactly. And they're very specific. You don't just talk about moving. You need to put your stakeholder in the room. The truck's gone. It's late. You're standing there surrounded by a fortress of boxes. You're exhausted. And you have one critical objective.
Caffeine?
Caffeine. You need the kettle or the coffee maker. That one tool to make the potion that lets you function as a human being.
And this is where the data governance failure just hits you in the face.
Yeah.
You look at the wall of boxes, and because you were in a rush, because the business just wanted to, get the move done, you didn't label anything right. You look at the nearest box, and what does it say?
Miscellaneous.
And it's miscellaneous number 27. Or my favorite, just stuff. Or maybe downstairs.
Yeah.
Absolutely useless. Somewhere in that cardboard mountain is your kettle.
But you can't find it.
You can't. You've created a system where finding it means ripping open every single box.
And this is the core friction point. This is where the translation to the business world is so powerful. The toolkit breaks it down perfectly. The move, that's your data migration.
Okay.
The box, that's your storage, your cloud bucket, your database, a folder, and the kettle.
That's the business value.
That's the business value.
That's the quarterly report or the customer list for the big sale.
It's the asset you need right now to do your job. And the tragedy is, you have the asset. It's not lost. It's in the house. But because the box is labeled miscellaneous, because you treated the whole thing like a logistics task instead of a governance task, that asset is effectively useless.
So you're paying a data scientist a ton of money to just rummage through cardboard.
Yes. Instead of analyzing the data, I want to pause on that miscellaneous box because it's just so perfect.
It resonates so hard. We talk about data swamps, but the miscellaneous box feels more personal somehow.
Well, think about why it happens. It's fatigue, it's a lack of standards. You get to the end of packing, you have this random pile of stuff, a stapler, a single sock, and you just shove it in a box to get it off the floor.
Right, just to be done with it.
That is exactly how we treat legacy data. We just lift and shift, we dump it into the cloud and say, we'll sort it out later.
And later never, ever comes.
Later is a myth. So now your cloud environment is just a garage filled with boxes labeled stuff, and then a regulator comes knocking and says, we need every email from 2019 about Project X.
Oh, no. And you have to say, well, it's in the garage somewhere. Give us 6 months and $1 million to find it for you. That is the sensitization we're talking about. You take that small panic of, I can't find my kettle, and you scale it up to, I can't find the evidence to keep us out of court.
Precisely. The toolkit's core argument is that data migration without governance is just chaos. But it's not just chaos, it's expensive chaos.
Okay, so we've established the pain. The stakeholder is sweating, remembering their last move. They're sensitized. So how do we sell the solution? The toolkit offers a 3-pillar approach: label, track, and plan.
And this is where we have to be really careful not to slip back into jargon. The toolkit warns you, don't pivot to metadata too quickly. Stay in the analogy.
Got it. Okay, so pillar 1, label. In the moving world, that's just writing on the box.
But it's deeper than that, right? It touches on standardization. Imagine you and I are packing your kitchen. I label a box utensils. You label a box flatware, and someone else just writes spoons.
And then you're looking for cutlery, and you can't find anything.
Exactly. That's the metadata challenge. It's not just having a label. It's about agreeing on the language. In a business, marketing might call a customer anyone who's visited the website.
But finance says a customer is someone who has actually paid an invoice.
So if you just dump those two things into the same box during a migration without clarifying that label,
You get a report that makes no sense. You open the customer box expecting revenue, and you find a bunch of window shoppers.
the label pillar is about enforcing that common language, a data dictionary, before you even tape up the box. It's making sure that when you write kitchen, we all agree on what goes in the kitchen.
It stops you from putting the toilet brush in with the
It
silverware.
happens in data lakes all the time. Disparate data types just group together because they share a file format. It's bad governance.
So the pitch isn't, we need metadata standards.
No. The pitch is, we need to agree on what we call these things, so when you ask for sales data, you don't get marketing fluff.
That makes sense. Okay, that brings us to pillar 2, track. This is knowing where the box is going.
This maps directly to data lineage. And the horror story here is the lost truck. You hire movers, they load up 3 trucks, and only 2 show up.
Where's the third one? No idea.
Or maybe they just put the boxes in the wrong rooms.
The library books end up in the damp basement. That's the key
Oh.
part for data. It's not just did it arrive, it's did it arrive in the right context.
I see.
Lineage is the chain of custody. If I hand you a report, the data, you want to know where it came from, who touched it, and if anyone sneezed in it along the way.
Especially if I'm basing $1 million decision on that report.
Right. If you have a dashboard that says sales are up 20%, but you can't trace that number back to the source, if you can't see the truck that brought it, you can't trust it. It's a black box. Tracking makes sure if you find a toothbrush in the kitchen box, you can figure out who put it there and why.
It's an accountability tool.
It is. It prevents the mystery data problem.
Yeah.
You know, that one spreadsheet that runs an entire department, but nobody knows who made it or where the numbers come from?
If I know that spreadsheet.
That's an untracked box. Okay, so we label, which is metadata. We track, which is lineage. The third pillar is plan. And honestly, this feels like the one people skip most in a real move.
Oh, 100%. Planning, in this analogy, is life cycle management. It's the Marie Kondo phase. It's standing in your old house before the movers get there and asking, do I really need this stack of magazines from 1998?
And the answer is always no, but you pack them anyway because, I might read them someday.
In the physical world, that costs you some tape and a sore back. In the digital world, that hoarding is costing companies millions. We call it ROT, redundant, obsolete, and trivial data.
What's the scale of that? Because you always hear storage is cheap.
Storage is cheap, finding things is expensive, liability is expensive. If you migrate terabytes of ROT data, you are paying movers to ship your trash across the country, and then you are paying rent to store that trash in your new master bedroom.
And if that trash has sensitive customer info from 10 years ago that you legally shouldn't have.
Then you are paying to store a ticking time bomb. The plan pillar is about making hard decisions before the move. It's saying, we're not moving this. Shred it, archive it, delete it.
So if I'm pitching this to a CFO, I don't talk about lifecycle management. I talk about not paying to move the trash.
Exactly. Why are we paying AWS to host data nobody has looked at in 7 years? Let's clean up the garage before we call the movers. A CFO gets that instantly.
This brings us to the application part of the toolkit. We have the analogy, we have the pillars. How do we actually deliver this in a meeting?
They give some great scripting for this. And it's really about shifting the dynamic. Usually data pros feel like they're nagging, please fill out this form, please tag your data.
Right.
With this, you position yourself as the person saving them from future pain.
Okay, let's take the impatient stakeholder. The marketing director who just wants to launch the campaign and hates the governance process.
Right. The script isn't to cite policy, it's to ask a question. You say, look, I know this form is annoying, but remember last quarter when we couldn't find the holiday customer list? Remember that panic?
Yeah, that was awful.
Okay, we're trying to prevent that. I'm not asking you to fill out a form for fun. I'm asking you to write kitchen coffee supplies on the box so that next time you find the list in 5 seconds, do you want to hunt for the kettle or do you want to brew the coffee?
That reframing is so critical. It turns the task from attacks on their time into an investment in their own future laziness.
Investment in laziness is a great way to put it. People will work hard now to avoid harder work later. If you convince them 5 minutes of labeling saves 5 hours of searching, they're in.
The toolkit also says to integrate this into training, like literally put pictures of cardboard boxes in your slide decks.
Yes, and I think that's brilliant. You put up a slide with a metadata repository architecture, half the room checks out. You put up a picture of a chaotic room full of unlabeled boxes and ask, who has felt like this? And you have their attention.
And you're building a shared language. So 6 months later, you can just say, hey, let's not throw that in the miscellaneous box, and they get it.
It becomes shorthand for quality. And it depersonalizes the criticism. You aren't saying your data is bad. You're saying the labeling on this box is unclear.
Now, for listeners thinking, okay, moving house is great, but I need a different angle, the source does point to a broader library.
That's right. This is just one module. The creators at DG Specialist have a whole collection of these.
We should probably mention where to find those.
They listed the website as www.dgspecialist.com/podcast. And they're also on YouTube at DG Specialist. It's worth a look because, different analogies work for different brains. Moving house is great for migration, for data quality. Maybe you need a cooking analogy.
Or for security, maybe a banking analogy. It's about having a toolkit. You don't want to be a carpenter with just one tool.
And you don't want to be a data governance pro with just a textbook definition. You have to be a storyteller. The best data leaders I know aren't always the most technical. They're the best communicators. They're the ones who can explain why it all matters.
Back to that sensitization. If you can make them feel the pain, you can get them to fund the solution.
And you can get them to participate. That's the hardest part. Governance isn't something the data team does to the business. It's something the business has to do for itself.
You can't label everyone else's boxes for them.
You really can. If you try, you'll burn out, and they'll still blame you when they can't find the kettle.
They have to own the box.
You just provide the Sharpie and the tape.
I love that. Here's the Sharpie, here's the tape. You decide if this is kitchen or garage.
And if they still label it miscellaneous after all that, well, at least you have the audit trail to show you tried.
The I told you so audit trail. A vital part of any data strategy.
Unfortunately, yes.
We're coming up on time, but I think the takeaway is really actionable. Next time you're prepping for that big meeting or launching a new data project, just stop and think about the move.
Ask yourself, in this project, what is our kettle? What is that one thing everyone will desperately need? And are we about to throw it into a box marked stuff?
And if the answer is yes, don't start coding, start telling the story. Remind them of the chaos and offer them the Sharpie.
Label, track, plan. It's the only way to avoid the nightmare.
Before we let you go, we want to leave you with a little brain teaser, a way to extend this in your own work.
We've talked a lot about moving house as the perfect metaphor for data migration. It just fits. But I want the listeners to look around their own organization. If moving house is migration, what other chaotic household chores are you currently doing in your business just because no one ever set the rules first?
Oh, that's good. Is your data lake actually a laundry pile that never gets folded?
Or do you have a leaky faucet in your data pipeline that everyone ignores because it's only a few drops, but it's secretly rotting the floorboards?
Who is responsible for the dishes in this database? I feel like that question alone could start a riot in some companies.
It all comes down to ownership. If nobody owns the chore, the house just falls apart.
A terrifying thought to end on, but a necessary one. Go find your kettle, label your boxes, and check out those resources at dgsspecialist.com. We will catch you on the next deep dive.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep it organized.